the file, and we abstracted that with a SQL abstraction that allowed us to use pseudo English-like commands. And then we talked about a programmatic API that was on top of that, allowed us to talk about it programmatically with Java, and it allows us to populate a data model manually. We saw that on top of that, we simplified that using ORMs, right? And today we're going to go even farther and allow anybody who has access to the internet, to be able to talk to us, right? To interact with our data, right? They don't need SQL, they don't need Java, doesn't matter, right? We're trying to broaden the accessibility of data, and we're going to be using a technique that will allow us to manipulate this data using very common HTTP commands, right? Why HTTP? Well, HTTP has become, very, very accessible, right? It's very easy to just spin up an HTTP server. Port 80 has become, an unsupervised port that anybody can just, spew data through there, right? It's a very easy mechanism to be able to share data, to make it available. There's tons of APIs and libraries that allow you to manipulate all sorts of HTTP requests and generate all sorts of HTTP requests. And nobody cares about port 80, right? So you don't have to fight with system admins to open up a port or secure a port if you want to be able to start interacting with others. Right? We know that basically it's just going to be text going back and forth, right? No executables, no nothing, right? So there's very little barriers towards using this protocol. Okay, so it has become the de facto way that we share data today. Okay, even though that was not the original intent, right? The original intent, it was for hypertext, right? That we were sharing this text that we could click and link and things, right? It has become much more than that, right? Has grown beyond our wildest dreams. So today we're going to look at using this protocol HTTP so that we can query data, just like you would you typing SQL here, right? You will also be able to expose the data from other users out here, right? Or any number of users that might use this HTTP hole in here to query data, put data, modify data, delete data, right? We're going to give people out there who know our URL full control and access to our database, right? Not that we would want to do that, right, unsupervised, but let's see how we do it, and then we can secure it, right? But let's see how the technique is based on accepting the fact that HTTP is no longer, right? HTTP is no longer for textual documents, right? As it was originally intended for. Originally, we created this notion of the URL, right? Of the universal resource locator, right? And these resources at first they were just plain text files, right? But we can extend this idea that anything could be a resource. Okay, not just a text file. A table could be a resource. A record could be a resource. A field inside of a record could be a resource, right? I could extend the idea of the path. I could extend the idea of the path. Originally, the intent of the path was that this would be a virtual path that mapped to a physical path, right, on some file system for a particular document that I want to retrieve, right? But we could extend this idea so much more, right? For instance, one of the things that we could use it for is to represent the one-to-many or many-to-many or one-to-one relationships that we encode here in the relational model, right? Our data model might have in here you might have one-to-many, one-to-many, and then another one-to-many, right? And well, that looks very much like a file system, right? You have some parent that has many children, and each child can have other children. That sounds very much like a hierarchical file system, doesn't it? Right? So we could use the same idea, instead of these mapping to physical files or physical directory structure, this could map to tables, right? And follow a parent-child relationship. So if this is table A, B, C, right? We could use this URL locator to say, /A. What does that mean? What does that mean? Okay, it looks like you're referring to table A, right? But what do you now in a file system? There are many operations that you can do on a directory or on a file, right? You can delete it, you can write to it, right? You can just print it. There's a lot of operations, yeah? So same thing here. What do you want to do with A, the resource A, right? Well, what are the things that we ever want to do with a table, right? We want to do the 4 or 5 operations, right? We want to create, we want to read one, read all, delete, or update. Those are the only 4 or 5 operations that we'll ever want to do on a table. Well, so we can map that to the operations in HTTP. HTTP also has certain operations, just like in the file system you have make dir or ls or pwd or whatever, right? All those commands at the command line. That's a protocol, right? That's a file, the OS's protocol. How do you talk to the file system? Here too, HTTP has a protocol, right? If you want to read data, typically you send a get HTTP request, don't you? Right? So if I send a get to HTTP, this is a get command to table A, right? If I don't specify any more than that, perhaps that could be interpreted as, well, I want to do a select all on table A, meaning give me all the records, right? And that's exactly what we're going to do, right? We're going to, if you send a get, right, into a particular for a particular table, we'll do a select and return data. If you additionally give me some kind of ID, some kind of identifier, right, some primary key value, then maybe that means, oh, you mean not all the records, you mean that particular record. Okay, so some identifier, right? So maybe 1, 2, 3 or something, right? 1, 2, 3. If I keep going, notice that 1, 2, 3 is a particular record here in this table that might be associated to many records on B, right? Correct? So I could keep going. I could say A, 1, 2, 3, all the records in B that are associated with 1, 2, 3. Okay, what does that give me? The list of records, right, that are associated with that particular, the list of records in B that are associated to 1, 2, 3, meaning whose foreign key of B to A is 1, 2, 3. That makes sense? Again, these are all gets, right? And I keep going, right? B, then it has 2, 3, 4, C, 4, 5, 6, and whatnot. So notice that we can map every single record in the database, right? Following this URL schema, right? And the operations, we can map it to various verbs in HTTP. Get being I want to read, right? If it's get table, it means I want everything. Or if instead I say get table / some ID, it means one record. That's the find all or find by ID. There they are, right? If I want to delete, well, HTTP has a delete, right? So there's a delete. So that would remove, right, a particular record. Okay. The other two operations left is create and update, right? Insert and update. Those are the only other two. We've seen the 2 reads, the delete, and then we have the other 2, which is create, which is an insert, and then an update, right? For those, we also have commands for those. HTTP has post, right, and has put, okay? And we typically associate post for creation. I want to create a new record. So this is a create, and put is for an update. In both instances, in both cases, we need to provide data, right? In both cases, if you want to post if you want to insert a new record, you have to give me values for that new record that you want to insert, right? If for put, also you're going to have to give me the new values, right, for whatever you want to modify, whatever fields you want to modify. In both cases, you need to give me some kind of object representation telling me the new values for field value, field value, field value. Okay, in both cases. Additionally, in put, you're going to have to give me the ID of the record that you're modifying. Because notice if it's post, I don't have a record, right? It's a brand new record that's being inserted. I don't have an ID, right? Whereas for put, presumably you're modifying a record that already exists. Okay, so for put, you would give me, right, a URL that ends with some ID, right? That you're modifying that particular record with that ID, right? For put. For post, you'll give me a table without an ID, right? Meaning you're inserting a new record into that table. That makes sense? All right. Okay. Now notice that for every single URL that you can give me here, I can uniquely tell you exactly what record you're talking about, right? Or I can represent the state of my application, right? The database tells me what state am I in, right? And I can uniquely identify any state that I want using this URL schema. Okay. So today we're going to be looking at this, how to implement this. Right? How to implement this. Us making available data to others, right? And if others, right, out here, you know, in the cloud somewhere, have made data available to us, right, we'll be hitting those URLs as well. Okay, either us making everybody else available this data, or us using somebody else's API, right? The collection of URLs and schemas and puts and gets and posts and puts and deletes, right, together, we refer to this as an API that someone else can use, right? Somebody else can use this API, right? So they can retrieve data from and interact with our database, with our application. Make sense? Right? This style, because it doesn't have to be like this, right? We could come up with many other ways of representing this, right? But this style of using, table IDs and whatnot, and puts and gets and deletes, that style is referred to as the REST API, RESTful APIs, okay, which stands for representational state transfer. Can you tell me uniquely what the state of your application is, uniquely by telling me what the URL is? The URL uniquely identifies the current state of your application, right? If I give you that URL, right, and I give it to somebody, right, with that same URL, they will get the same data as I got, right? The exact data, right? I can transfer this data from one place to another, by uniquely having this URL. Okay, we'll see how to implement this. Many APIs out there, even though they say they are RESTful, they don't follow this style. Okay, we don't necessarily need to use post or put or delete. We could do everything with get, right? For instance, we can add the command at the end if we decide, right? Create, delete, right? Update or something like that, right? The data, instead of providing the data as an object, it could be added as in the query string, right? The fields could be added at the end. Okay, there's many other ways of representing this, and many APIs that you will see out there, right? Even though they say they're RESTful, they're not. They use get. Most of them just use get, right? Without any posts, any puts, any deletes. It's because it's easier. It's easier to just do everything in get, right? One of the reasons is that it makes it very easy for you to type a URL right at the command, right at the browser, right? Because browser, that's all they do, right? It's only gets, right? It'd be very cumbersome if you want to have somebody try your API, but it says, well, no, you have to send me a post or put or delete. When a browser can't do that, right? Well, a browser can only do that programmatically, right? Writing a JavaScript program, right? But if you want people to just use your API, you want to lower the bar as much as possible to make it easier for them to use it, right? And try it out, right? Without having them to code this out and play it around. We're going to use both, right? We're going to use third-party APIs out there that just use get, right? And then we'll write our own the way it should be with posts, puts, and deletes. Okay? All right, so first, let's look at using somebody else's API. Right? I know some of you are looking to use APIs out there. I think half of you are accessing the APIs from a browser, and half of you are APIs from a server. I think the API from the client is most of you are okay. Some of you need some help on the server. So let's look at how you would do it from the server, okay? Which is a little more involved. Any questions so far? Okay, all right. So let me share my screen. Let me close all this. And let me switch to another workspace. Cancel. Okay, so let's get started. So here's an API that we've been using on our web course to query for movies. And I think it's called My API Films. Is that it? There it is. Yeah, My API Films. I think we play around with this early on in the course, and I showed you how to do it from a client, from a browser using JavaScript. I believe that's what we did early on in the course. So today I'm going to show you how to do it from the server. Okay, it's a little more involved, but one of the cool things is that you don't have any of the restrictions that you would have on the browser. If you're doing it from a browser, you have issues of cross-domain security, maybe having to work with JSON-P. Over here, you don't have any of those issues. From the server, you don't have any of the issues, right? Because since you're not running on a browser, you're not running on somebody else's machine, you're running on your machine, right? You're free to do whatever you want, okay? So let's look at the My API Films. If you remember, this allowed you to query the movie database, IMDb, with a couple of URLs, right? Down below, there were some URLs that you could configure to be able to query searching by an ID or searching by a title, a name of a movie. So for instance, down here, notice it says example title. You can type here an example, name of a movie, and it will query using a URL. So for instance, if you type Avatar, you click on search, it generates a URL that you would need to use yourself, right, to query for movies that have the name Avatar in it. A couple of things here, limits, how many movies do you want in the query, right, that match, how many matches do you want? I'm going to use 10. Right, I use search, and it generates the URL that you can use and the response that you would get, right? It's a big response. I'm going to copy the URL, and I'm going to paste it in a brand new browser window. If I paste it in there, and I press enter, you get a JSON object back, right? A JSON array. Sorry, there's a JSON array. It's an array because it sees there's a bracket, right? And there's several instances. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There should be 10, right? There's it is. Our 10 movies that came back, right? And so what we need to be able to do is, well, can we do this programmatically? You know, can we hit this URL, perhaps from somebody having typed a search string in a browser window, programmatically go hit the server and come back with his results and display it in a pretty way, right? And then us saying, you know, maybe as I peruse through this, I click on, you know, I like this movie and store this in a database or something, right? So let's see how we can retrieve the data from Java at least. Okay, let's see. If you notice, this is rendered by a plugin that I installed for Chrome that it detects the data as coming back as JSON, and it says, oh, okay, I'll print it pretty for you, right? So you can look at it in a convenient way. But really, the source, the data that actually came back is just plain text. Right? This is what really came back from the server, just plain text. Okay, if I copy that, definitely I have this tool that allows me to peruse through it, to navigate through it, right? I can expand and collapse and view everything. But this is transient, right? This is mapped to a URL. I would like to keep it around and still manipulate it. There's a nice free tool called JSON Editor Online that you can paste text, right? JSON text, and then pre-print it so that it's, you know, it can be viewed conveniently, and then it gives you an object representation, right? So down on the right hand side, it's like an object representation that you can expand and view the data. And this is very useful so that you can write the code to parse this, right? To manipulate this. You can keep it around and see exactly what you would expect, right? So I'm just going to keep that around, right? So that's the text, which I don't want, and this is the actual data that's coming back from my API fields from that query. So what I would like to be able to do is do this dynamically. So let's copy that, and let's create a new project here. So I'm going to create a dynamic web project, and I'm going to create a what is it? My API fails. My API fails client. So I'm going to write a client. We are a client to this service, right? So let's see how we can write a Java client to talk to this. Okay, let's say next. I don't believe I need the web.xml, but I'll just generate it anyway. Cancel. All right, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to create here a class that is going to be my client, right? I'm going to create a class here. It's going to be my API films client, and I'm going to put it under a package called edu.nu and eu.cs5200 rest, because I'm writing a RESTful client, so I'm going to call this client as opposed to a service, right? So let's write that, and I'm going to open up a main here. Say main. Okay, so there it is. Let's see if I can do do something very simple, just to say hello, just to make sure that we have a working starting hello world class. Okay, let's run this, and it'll ask me how do you want to run it. I want to run it as a Java application, and it's a standalone Java application, and it types hello world. Okay, very good. We have that. The next thing I'm going to do is that I copied that URL, right? I'm just going to paste it in here so I have it with me. I'm going to say this is a public final string, wrong language, string. So this is what? This is What's the URL? This URL was for what? Search by title, right? So it's this one, right? Example title. So I'll call this find movie by title. And I'll just paste that in there. That's the URL that we used, right? Okay. So what we want to do here is create a function, right, that will be able to connect to this URL and retrieve data from that URL. So let's create here a public void find movie by title. That takes as a string, as an argument, the title of the movie. Okay. Let's make sure that this works. Let me instantiate this class. So the class is called My API Films class. Okay, so I'm going to create an instance of that. I'm going to call this client new My API Films. Right, and I like to be able to call that function. It's public, so I can call it. So it's client.find movie by ID, and the title is maybe Avatar. Okay. Notice that that title in the URL is supposed to be right here. See that? That's where the title should go. Right? So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to replace that with a constant that I can feed it. Right? I can replace it for my own purposes. Right? So I'm going to say movie title. Okay? So that's and what I'm going to do is that if I want a URL, if I want the actual URL that I'm going to use, the URL string will be the original string, right? And I'm going to replace that placeholder, movie title. I'm going to replace it with my variable title. So that now I have a URL for whatever movie I'm searching for, right? And I'm going to just print this out to make sure that the URL that I'm generating is valid, URL string. Let me run this. Okay, so I'm going to copy, that's the URL that came back. I'm just going to copy it and go to my API just to verify that indeed this URL is good. All right, the URL is good. All right, the URL it's generating is good. Okay. All right, but I want to do this from here, from my code, right? So to do that, what we're going to do is we want to create a URL, new URL, object that represents that URL string. Okay, and URL is a Java class that allows us to manipulate or interact with a URL. Right? For instance, open up a connection, right, and retrieve whatever that URL maps to. Okay, so that's URL is in the package java.net. So I'm going to import that. Very good. And now it's complaining that it throws exceptions, so I'm going to surround it with a try catch. There it is. Okay. Right. So now we need to open up a connection to that URL. Right. To do that, you can say URL dot what is it? Get connection, open connection. There it is. Open connection. That's going to open up a connection. Right. Now, this connection could be many protocols, right? It could be an FTP protocol. It could be it is an HTTP, right? And HTTP has its peculiarities. Each protocol has its own dialect, right, on how to interact with whatever underlying framework you're talking about, right? So this URL connection is a generic connection, right? We need to convert it into what it really is. It's an HTTP connection, right? It's not a generic connection. To do that, I want to convert this into an HTTP URL connection. There it is, URL connection. Right? And this is complaining, saying that it's the wrong data type. So I'm going to add a cast. So it's going to cast it to HTTP URL connection. There it is. It's going to cast it. It's still complaining. it says that, okay, this throws exception. I'm going to add a catch clause to existing catch clause. Okay, there it is. So there it is. It adds it there. Oops, what? Malform is already caught by IO exception. Okay, so remove exception. All right. All right. And I'm not using this anymore, so I'm going to remove it. All right, so I have the connection. One of the first things that we need to do is, it says, well, notice that we have many types of commands that we can do with this URL, right? We could do a post, we can do a put, we can do a delete, we can do a get. We need to say what is that we want to do with this URL, right? So we want to do a get, right? We need to tell it that we want a connection dot set content fix instance request method. Request method, we want a get. And so this is what we want to do. All right, so now we're ready to actually, send this request, right? And start, give me back whatever you were going to give me, right? For that, we're gonna open up a stream. We're gonna say, okay, well, start streaming the data back to me, right? Because I want it locally on my program, right? So to do that, we're gonna say connection dot. Let's see, content timeout. Get input stream. There it is, input stream. Okay, and that we're gonna have here a variable called in that let's see, what does it say? Create parameter, create local variable in. Yeah, I want you to create local variable in. There it is. Okay, it adds the correct data type. Very good. Now this stream, what we want to do is it's going to be quite a lot of information, right? And so what we want to do is start buffering this information and read it as it comes, right? For that, we're going to wrap this stream with a buffer, a reader, right? An input reader, input, so that we can start reading it. Input stream reader, there it is. Input stream reader, input stream reader, or reader. Input stream reader. I'm going to wrap it, input stream reader within. And finally, we're going to wrap it with a buffered reader. Buffered reader. New buffer reader. ISR. Okay, now we're ready to start reading. And we're going to read line by line, right, the data that is coming to us. Okay, and we're going to put it inside of a string with the output. Okay, we're going to read it in. I'm going to say, as long as I read this, I'm going to put it in out. We're going to read each line, reader dot read line. As long as this is not null, meaning as long as there's more lines to read, keep reading it, right? And put the data that you're reading, put it in a variable, in a local variable out. Okay, and we're going to print it out to standard output to see what's coming back to us, right? So we're going to say print it out to standard output. Read lines complaining. Let me hover. String read line. Wait, do I have one too many parentheses? Read line. Reader. It's read line. No, it returns a string. Why is it saying out is incompatible string and int? Where's the int? I didn't declare any integers. Oh, no. Ugh. Thank you. Okay. All right, still complaining. Do I need an extra parentheses? Need an extra parentheses over here, right? Okay, there it is. Okay, thank you. All right, so let's see what this comes back to us. Let's print this. There it is. So there it is. So that's the JSON string that is coming back from a service, right? It's the same content that is the string that came back over here. But over here it's nicely formatted, right? The browser formats it, so pre-prints it, but it really came back as a single line, as one single line. So what we want to be able to do here is now start manipulating this, do something with this, right? Right? And also start thinking about how are we going to represent this locally on our machine. You know, certainly strings are not a very useful way to manipulate this, right? Parsing this would be a pain, right? So instead of parsing this, right, I would like to have some kind of way for us to manipulate this, convert it maybe to an object model. You know, very much like what we did for ORMs, right? What did ORMs do? They allowed us to map one representation of the data model, which was the representational. I'm sorry, the relational model, right? They allow us to map the relational model into a class model, right? Into an object model, right? Before we did ORMs, we did it by hand, right? This is the equivalent of me trying to parse this, right? Instead, what we want is, you know, some mechanisms that would allow us to map this into an object, right? So let's keep that in mind, right? We'll do that in a minute. Before we do that, like a DAO, right? Like a DAO, I would like to be able to, you know, interact with this data source, right? The DAO interacts with data sources that are, you know, presumably databases, right? That are interacting with tables and relationship between tables and fields and records and whatnot. But this is the same thing. This is just another data source, right? It just happens to be some other machine running across the world, right? And I'm hitting it with some URL, right? But I would like to have the same kind of operations. Yes, this is fine. This is like find all, right? I would want to find by ID also, right? So let's write that. If we write that, right, if we start writing that, we would do something like, you know, find movie by ID, right? And presumably we would give it here an ID, right? For that ID, I probably have another URL for that, okay? But notice that the code is going to be very similar. Actually, it's going to be exactly the same. The only thing that's going to be different is that I'm going to be using a different URL, and I'm going to be replacing it with something different as well, the ID, correct? But this code is going to be exactly the same, right? So why don't we, okay, we can convert this into a reusable piece of code that can be, you know, reused for different things, right? I'll give you the URL, right? You'll give me back JSON. I'll know what to do with the JSON, right? I'll handle the JSON. Make sense? Right? So I'm going to refactor this. I'm going to say extract method. Okay. I'm going to call the method get JSON for JSON string for URL. Okay. So there it is. It extracted it, giving a URL, right? It's going to use that URL to connect. It's going to type it into some, well, we don't want it to print, right? What we want it to is to accumulate this into a string, right? And then retrieve that string. Yes, if it's many strings. So let's do that. So let's convert this. And so instead of a void, let's convert this into a string. Let's create a string buffer that's if this is many lines of JSON, it's going to concatenate all this together, and then it's going to send me the whole JSON back. Right? So string buffer, JSON, new string buffer. And instead of printing it, what I'm going to do is going to say JSON.append out that string. And at the end of the while loop, we're going to return JSON string. If something goes wrong, I'm going to just return null. Okay, everybody good? All right. Okay, so now we can print this. We can say, you know, system.out.println. Right, and this should be exactly what we had originally. Let's run this. Okay, so it still works, right? The only other URL that we would want is find by ID. Let's see. Our API has that up here. Okay, if I give it an IMDb ID, it should retrieve a movie. Let's see. Here we had 10 movies. Here we had 10 movies. Let's see. This is James Cameron. And this is Avatar 4. What? Avatar 4? Wait, when's the Avatar 2 coming out? Not this year, right? Next year. Next year. They already have Avatar 4? Okay. Let's see. Do we have Avatar 2 anywhere here? Australia, Spain, France. Avatar, Louis. No, it must be wrong Avatar here. France. Spain, the Avatar series. I think this is a TV series, right? Agent James Bond? I don't think that's right. Fantasy, that's Avatar 3. Avatar 2. There it is. It must be this one, right? Okay, so the IMDb for this was, where is it? There it is, IMDb. So if I grab that ID and I plug it in here, and I say search, it tells me what the URL that I should use, and here are the details for that movie. Okay, probably the other URL would give me summary information, right? But this one probably has much more detailed information. So let me copy that URL, copy the link, and I'm going to paste it here. So this is public. Well, actually, these should be private, probably, right? These should be private. Private final string find movie by ID. Right, and the ID, there it is, IMDb, there it is, right? So here, I'm going to replace this for a placeholder, right? So I'm going to put here ID underscore IMDb. So find movie by ID, what it would do is do what? It would do the same thing, right? It would say string URL is equal to find movie by ID, replace ID underscore IMDb, replace it with my ID, right? And then I'm going to system that out, println, call get JSON for this URL string. Okay, so let's call that one. And the ID, what was the ID? That one, okay. Let's not call this one, let's call the other one. So find movie by ID. And I'm going to pass this ID. Okay, all right, so let's see if that works. Okay, notice that this time it was not an array. See that? It's a single object, right? It's that movie, as opposed to the previous one, return an array of movies, right? Because there were several. Make sense? That matched Avatar. Whereas this is a primary key, it returns a single movie that matches that one particular ID. Everybody okay? All right. All right, so what I want to be able to do is convert this into a useful data model in my world, right? Instead of dealing with strings, really what I want to work with something higher level, right? Just like SQL abstracts a file system, right? And it gives me a high level SQL language, and then we abstracted that with ORMs, right? Same thing here. I don't want to work with strings. I want to convert that into some data model. right? Okay, to do that, we're going to use an API called Jersey Jackson. Okay. So Jersey, as we'll see in a minute, a little later, is a library that allows me to write RESTful applications. Okay, it allows me to create, expose my data, right? Map URLs mapped to, services or things that respond with data. Okay, we'll do that in a minute, a little later. Jackson works with Jersey. It's responsible for working with JSON objects. Okay, it allows the conversion between these two worlds. Right, Jackson is to Java what ORM was to Java. Right, what JPA was to Java. What was JPA for? Converting between relational data model and the object model. Right? Jackson converts between JSON data model and Java data model. Okay, giving a JSON string, it gives you a Java object. Okay, just like JPA, you give it, a collection of records, it gives you, a list of objects. Okay, so let's use Jackson. There's quite a few places where it can be downloaded. Let's download it from Maven. So Maven, you can search. So Maven is a Java's repository for libraries. There's tons of libraries, and there's one single repository where you can find them all the various versions, right? And so you can search Jersey Jackson. And there's 3 that we need. Okay, that work with various things. One is the core. This is the base library. This is the data binding that allows you to do the conversion between JSON integers, numbers into Java integers, JSON strings into Java strings, and so on and so forth. It allows you to parse the various strings into actual Java objects. So let's download all of these. Hello? Okay. Oh, 252. I don't know. I've worked with 251. I haven't worked with 252, so I'm going to stick around with the library version that I know works. So I'm going to download. If you know how to do this with Maven, use Maven. Okay. I don't want to get into Maven just yet. I'm just going to download this. And where do I want to put it? Oh, I already have it. Yes, I already have it. Oh, well, then I'm not going to download it again. Wait, do I have all these? Wait a minute. Let me see if I have all of them. So data bind core. Do I have core? Oh, 251. Okay, I do have that. I must have the other one too, probably. Annotation is going to allow us to annotate our code, right? Although we're not going to need to annotate, are we? Actually, we might. It allows to, in JPA, right? You need to annotate your class and say, hey, this is an entity, right? This maps to a table, yes? And this field over here is the primary key, and you annotate it with @ID, yes? Same thing here. You need annotations, right, to tell Jackson, right, how to convert your data model, right? By default, you don't need any annotations, okay? We're going to need an annotation because we're going to need to do an exception, right? All these libraries, these annotations, they work on a philosophy that you do minimal configuration, right? Meaning it uses default configurations that are reasonable, okay? That you only need to configure if you're doing something, well, not unreasonable, but doing something that is a little bit off, right? That it's that for some reason it's an exception, okay? But out of the box, without any annotations, it should just work. And it does, for the most part, only because I mean, I would need to create a data model that is as complex as this. I need to create an object that has an attribute countries, right? That is an array or a list of strings. Here's another one that is an array of other objects that have attributes name and name ID. I mean, I would have to create a class diagram fairly complex to map this entire object into a Java object, right? Okay. Well, I'm lazy. I don't want to do all of it, right? I'm going to do just a couple, right? And that's an exception. Typically, what you want to do is convert everything, right? I want to convert all the fields over here into all the fields in Java. Well, I'm going to use an annotation to say I do not want to do all of them, right? Just do these 4, okay? Meaning ignore all the other ones. Ignore the ones that are not listed here. Just ignore them, right? Because Jackson's going to complain and says, hey, you don't have a place for me to put the genres or the languages, and says, I don't care about the genres. I don't care about the languages. Right? Just ignore them. Yes? All right. Okay. All right. So apparently we already downloaded all the libraries. Let me go to my downloads page. Oh, they're even selected. There they are. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add them to my project. So here's my project. Here's my web content. I'm going to just add them here to my lib directory. And there they are. Jackson annotations, core, and data bind. I'm just going to drag it in there. Okay. And I'm going to add those 3 libraries. And I'm going to say add it to my build path. Okay, so now they're available across my entire application. Right? I can start playing around with them. Right? Okay, so what I want to be able to do here is if I'm retrieving one movie for a given ID, what I would like to be able to do is, instead of returning void here, it'd be nice if it would return to be an instance of a movie, right? Of some class, right? So let's create a class that can hold some data, right? So let me create here, new class, movie. And movie, I want to map a couple of things here. Let's see, what could we want to map? Well, definitely IMDb, right? Maybe the plot, and maybe the title. The title, there it is, right? And maybe also a poster. How's that? Where's the poster? So there's a poster. So let's map those. So IMDb looks like it's a string. Oops. String IMDb. These are all private. What else did we say? Plot. So private plot. What else? This is a poster, right? String, private string, poster, and the title. So private string title. Okay, and for the source, I'm going to create the setters and getters. Select all. Okay. All right, there it is. Okay, so I have this. Maybe I want to make a constructor. No, let's not make the constructor. Right? So now back here, what I want to be able to do is say, okay, I want you to return to me a movie object. Right? I want you to return a movie object from the JSON string, right, that you retrieved. So I'm going to create a movie object. So movie equal new movie. And this will return movie. Okay, so we need to do the conversion. How do we do the conversion? Right? To do the conversion, we're going to use the jar files we just added there. I'm going to use Jackson to do this. Right? So Jackson declares what's called an object mapper. right? There it is, Jackson data bind object mapper. Object mapper allows you to read and write, right, objects. Either read JSON and give you an object, or take an object instance and give you the equivalent JSON, right? It allows you to go both ways. You know, very much like JPA allows us to go from the object world to the relational world, right? This one allows you to go from the JSON world to a object world, okay? You know, relational model is only one of many ways to represent data, right? Is one way, I would say the leading way to represent, you know, long-term persistent data, okay? But to represent volatile data and data that is being shared amongst various systems, right, that are integrated with one another, might want to use, you know, they used to use, well, they still use a lot of XML, right, because, right, it was just text, right? It didn't entail any particular, it had no no bias towards any one framework, right? Whether you were using .NET or Java or PHP, right? XML was a, you know, a lingua franca, right? It could be, anybody can speak XML. Same thing with JSON, right? JSON is becoming more and more, right, the lingua franca of speaking and exchanging data over the web. Okay. Anyway, so here's object mapper. Mapper, new object mapper. Okay. And mapper allows you to read value, and you can give it a string. Actually, we have the string here, right? You can say string JSON. Okay. Oops. So the source of where it's reading, it's this JSON, and then what do you want to populate, right? What do you want to populate? And we want to populate an instance of movie. So movie.class. Meaning I want to generate an instance of a movie from this JSON, right? It's complaining. What's it saying? Okay, so it needs a try catch. Okay, there it is, try catch. And it wants to create an instance of a movie. Right? There it is. So it creates an instance of a movie, and that's what I'm going to return. Return movie. So here in the in main, where I called it, I'm going to grab that movie on this side, you know, when it returns. There it is. Okay? And I'm going to try and print, let's say system.out println, and then movie dot the plot, get plot. Okay, so let's run that. All right, so it's complaining that you know, that it tried to parse countries, right? And it tried to populate a countries in the data model, but there was no countries in the data model, right? You have title, plot, IMDb, right? You don't have a countries, right? So it's complaining. I tried to, but I couldn't, right? So this is where we're going to go into our data model and going to say, you know what? Just ignore any fields that you don't find, right? Just forget about any fields that you don't find. So to do that, what it is. Is it Jackson something? No. Is it JSON something? Ignore. There we go. JSON ignore, and then what? Ignore unknown equal true. There it is. Okay, so ignore any unknown fields. So let's try it again. So there it is. When his brother is killed in a robbery, blah, 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 right? So we were able to convert, right, JSON that's out there, right, in some godforsaken server and into our data model. And we can do everything, you know, anything we want. We could display this now on a servlet, in a JSP file, right? We can do and then maybe we could like it, right? If we like it, what would we have to do? We would need to be able to remember the IMDb, right? We would store in the database the IMDb that this person liked that movie. We would store the IMDb so that next time, right, if we ever need to fetch that movie again, we know the IMDb, right? And we can always use this, find movie by title. Sorry, no. Find movie by ID to always fetch that again, don't I? Right? I can always retrieve it. You see that? Okay. How about find the movies by title? Right. So this is going to be somewhat similar. The difference here is that it's not one movie; it's lots of movies. Right. So what I like to be able to do is retrieve an array of movies. Okay. Get me a whole bunch of movies. To do that, we're also going to use Jackson, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to store this in a JSON string, right? And then use the object mapper to say, hey, parse this array, right? Iterate over it and create instances of movies for me. Parse them all out and give it to me as an array of movies, right? Without me having to do anything. I don't have to parse any of this, right? So what I'd like to be able to do here is say, get the object mapper. New object mapper. And then say, well, I really want an array here. So I'm going to do mapper dot read value. Same thing. Doesn't change. I'm going to give it the JSON. And what I want is not one movie, I want many movies, right? I want an array of movies. So the class for that is movie array dot class. So the array of movie itself is a class. Okay, so meaning instantiate an array of movies, right? And populate the movie instances in each one of those. Okay? This needs to go in throws. Okay, there it is. And the basic thing that we're going to do is just going to return this. It's going to return whatever that array that comes back instantiated. Okay. If something fails, we're just going to return. Okay. I guess we should do the same thing here, right? We should just return here, return this, return the mapper, and if something goes bad, we're just going to turn null. And actually, I don't even need this, right? There we go. All right, so let's call this movie by title. Right, so what we're going to do here is instead of find movie by ID, we're going to now do movie array movies client dot find by title, and we'll use Star Wars. Okay, and then we're going to iterate over that. We're going to say for movie in movies. And we're going to display system.out println movie.get title. Right? And the plot. Okay, so let's run that. Star. The driver now carries an arrogant rock star who is wait, no. That doesn't sound right. Madonna? Wait, what's going on? Star. Wait, it only returned one. Why did you return just one? And why did you not return a science fiction movie? IMDb, movie title, filter, limit 10. Oh, you know what might happen? I think Let me see. If I search it here, if I go here and I type Star Wars, what happens? Click, open a new tab. Oh, I see. See, it's encoding it. The space is encoded, right? So we need to encode, right, our query to make sure that that's URL encoded, right? So spaces are not allowed. All right, so let's do that. Find movie by title. So we'll do so title is equal to URL. How do you encode? I forgot. Is it a URL? Class. Let's see. URL encode Java. No, not yeah. Oh, URL encoder. URL encoder encode. Okay, so URL encoder dot encode title. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, that sounds better. Luke Skywalker, a young farmer, episode 4, 7, episode 9. What? Oh, cool. All right. Oh yeah, the movies, all the movies are coming out this weekend, huh? Anyway, so it works, right? We can retrieve data from a third party a web API. Okay. We can render this in a JSP, right? If we go now to a JSP, you can say new JSP. We'll call this, movies, movie search.jsp. And what we could do here is first let's see if it works, right? Let's get a what is it called? Movie. This one, right? This class, and we need to import this package, right? In this JSP, we say import that package. So we're going to do my API Films client equal new my API Films clients, and we're going to say movie array movies equal client dot find movie by title. So we'll put here Star Trek. And we're just going to iterate over this, right? We're going to maybe use a table to render this. So table. And we're going to do for movie in movies. And we're going to display here. So this would be table row. We want to iterate or generate a whole bunch of table rows. This is table data. And this would be movie title, right? And let's see what else, and the plot. Let's just do the plot. And the let's do the ID. And we have the oh no, not ID. What is it? IMDb. And we had the what else do we have there? The URL, right? The URL poster. Oh, what could we do with that? We could do an image, no? IMG source. And close that. All right, let's try. Let's see if this blows up. Run on a server. Tomcat, blah, blah, blah. Yes, sure. Let me remove these guys. Move, run. There it is, Star Trek, right? Right, and here's the ID. So what you want to be able to do is do the interaction. If I like this movie, right, I would send that to the server. This is the ID. I know who's logged in, and I would do an insert or an update. I don't know. Maybe I could search to see if this person already likes this movie, right? And I would insert or update, right, or ignore maybe a record saying this person likes that movie. Okay, so you would have a table, something like this, right? Okay, you would have something like here's the user table. Oh. Here's the user table, and here is the the movie table, the movie class, and you would have a likes table saying this would be to have a foreign key back to the user, foreign key back to the movie. Now, what would you be storing in the movie, right? Probably you would be storing enough information to create a very quick list of movies, so you don't have to go out to the database for everything, right? You'd be storing maybe the IMDb. You can see it. The URL maybe, maybe the title, okay, and the plot. You know, something that would allow you to just display very quickly locally without having to go out to the service, right? You know, what are your favorite movies, okay? And then you would have like a details link that allow you to navigate to the details page. To the details page, you would provide the URL, right? That URL you can then use, right? For instance, you might do something like this, right? So for instance, what you could do is that here in the JSP, you could say the title could be a link. You know, this could be a link, right? And the title can be the hyperlink. And where would I go? I would go to a page that says movie details. How's that? Movie details.jsp. Yes. And I would pass as an argument to that page movie ID or the IMDb IMDb equal to this. Pass it right here. Pass it. So let's refresh that. Where is it? Oh no, I don't have it, right? It's right here. Let me copy that. Let me paste it here. But now these are links. See that? These are links that if I click on them, presumably it'll go to a movie details.jsp, but it has as an argument, notice the parameter. I can retrieve that, and let's do that, right? Let's we can create another JSP, and it's called, what is it called? Movie details. Movie details.jsp. I can retrieve that. You can say string ID IMDb. It's from the request, get parameter. What's it called? ID IMDb. And then I can use the client to retrieve the details for that one movie, right? Right? I could say, let me see. I need to include this package. Let me include that package as well. Now that I have the ID, I can say movie client. What do I call it? My API. So here's a client, new, my client. I can say client dot find movie by ID. I pass it the ID IMDb. And here I can display, okay, this returns to me a movie, right? Movie, objects, that one movie for that ID, yes, and I can display here much more information, right? Not only this information, I can display, you know, the writers, the directors, the actors, the whatever, right? All the details. But I don't need to store that in my database. Right? I don't need to map everything to my database, right? I only need the ID IMDb. The only reason I even have in my data model the URL for the image and the title and whatnot is that, well, for that, you know, because I'm creating a summary of things that I am recording in my database. I don't want to have to, even though I only really need the IMDb, right? I could go fetch all this information independently, right? One per movie to render my list, but that would take forever to render a list. So I'm caching that data, right, in my database, right? So here I can say, you know, movie dot title. I can say here H1, and then I can say paragraph and render the movie dot get plot, right? Maybe I can put the image here too. IMG source movie dot get URL poster, right? And maybe I can say, you know, float left, margin right, 10 pixels. Right, so I go back here, and if I render, right, it'll fetch Star Trek, right? Put the image on the left-hand side and all the details on the right-hand side. Okay? All right? Make sense? All right. Okay, let's take a quick break, and then we'll see how they did it. You know, how did they, right? How did they go about and expose this URL? You know, somebody actually implemented this, right? Somebody has this database out there, right? Is accepting URLs and is responding with JSON. Let's us do that as well, right? After the break. Okay.
I was wondering if it's okay to like change our original
Class diagram. The way that we have it now is that one person can only follow one other person. Because we don't have a mapping table, it couldn't be many to many.
Okay.
So
I was just saying, can it be different from what we originally said? Is
Yeah.
it okay
The class
to make
diagram?
that's the base.
Oh yes, of course.
Okay.
some of the things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
We talked to you about
Yeah. So if you haven't heard from me, it's okay. And as long as you meet the requirement of using most of the websites should be available without logging in. There should be a profiles page, there should be a search page, there should be some kind of details page like this. There should be the ability of making relationships between a user and one of these domain objects. Over here, the domain object is the movie. You should be able to make several types of relationships between user and domain object, right? That should be likes or rates, review, comments, several relationships between user and domain object. Then relationships between users and users. Right? A user follows a user sends a message to a user, or something like that. Right?
what we have is basically we have web application specifically that helps the university students register.
Yeah.
And we have this associated hospitals and NGOs.
Yep.
So it's like they are not interacting. So
Yes.
we've added functionalities like a pickup facility for the donor who's willing
Yep.
during an emergency. We have this adopt a child with hemophilia.
Mhm.
It's like we keep a track of our user of the donor.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect.
We added
Yeah. Yeah, it's perfect. Perfect.
and we're planning to work on section
Okay. And using DAO or entity framework.
not really thought about that.
So if it's not an entity framework, it would have to be some kind of DAO, like we're doing here, right? Like, centralized place where you have all your CRUD operations, no SQL spread all over the place, right? Everything organized into a nice DAO. Right?
C sharp.
That's fine. Yeah.
How many people should we create now?
I'm sorry?
How many people should we create now?
Well, it depends how many people in your.
And could you explain how to cache the data into the local database?
You mean
Fetch
this?
from API and then history.
Well, it's like we've done that already, right? We've written to a database. We've been writing to a database for the last couple of months now.
Another question?
I mean, last week we were, right? You were using JPA
But
last week.
I
Last week? Last week, didn't we do JPA last week to do inserts and?
Yes,
and-
yes, but
Yeah. So that's what you would do.
Okay. Sorry.
You would do this, right? You would say,
I think I have done that.
you would just say movie, right? And you would say entity, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Right? And you would say you do a private int ID, and then you would do right ID, things like that, right? That's an object that you want to send to a database.
Yes, yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
I mean, when you fetch the JSON file and parse the JSON file
Yep.
and then insert the data
Yep.
from JSON file into the database.
Yep.
That particular part, not this part. That I have done that. Yes.
Okay. Well, I just fetched it, right? This is a movie object, right?
Yes, you parse the JSON
Yep.
data.
And I have an
data
object.
into-
I have
yeah,
an object, and I
Yeah.
want to save that object to a
yeah.
database.
Oh.
We did that
That's-
last week.
Okay.
You have an instance of an object, right?
Yeah.
You have
I had done
DAO.
that.
You say DAO dot create movie,
Yes.
and it
That's
takes as an
the-
argument. What does it take as an argument?
Uh-huh.
A movie
Yes, that
object, right?
But that okay, that argument. But once you have a fetch JSON P file and pass the JSON P file
I have an object.
and pass the object into that DAO file. Oh, okay.
In the DAO, you say DAO dot
yeah,
create,
DAO.
right?
Okay.
Okay.
So I have a workbench error that I can't seem to solve. For some reason, it just
Is it running?
no.
我觉得就换电脑。我在看。哎呀。
What database are you using? MySQL? Oh. Where's MySQL? Is it installed?
It is, yeah. This is,
Well, no, but this is the workbench.
oh,
You need the server. So
Okay,
this
I
connects to a server.
right.
Yeah, you have to
Yeah,
have
I
the
think
server
I
running.
uninstalled that.
Uh-oh.
So that's it.
Yes, you have to have the server running.
Right.
And usually you leave it as a service that it boots up automatically when you start the machine.
Right.
And then to connect to it, you use MySQL Workbench.
Okay, so in the MySQL installer, I say that download the server as well. Because I just installed the workbench.
Yeah, no, you need a separate install for the server. Yep. Yeah, fine.
Do you know if we're going to get like
You'll have grades this weekend.
PowerPoint has been updated for like a while.
Yeah.
If they were just up there or head back in class.
Yeah, no, I'm halfway done.
Okay.
I'll be done this weekend.
Right.
All right, let's keep going. All right, come on, let's go. Let's get started. All right, so let's keep going. So the next thing we'd like to be able to do is we would like to replicate the ability that we see these online services, right, that are exposing the data through URLs, right, being able for others to use their data. Right, so how do you do that? Right, so to do that, right, we need a mechanism that will allow us to map URLs to some executable. Right, say here's a URL that is incoming from the client, right, from a browser or from somewhere, right? For instance, where is this URL coming from? It's coming from this Java application, right? The server over there is receiving this URL and then it's responding. The way it's responding is that URL, right, this URL over here, this URL, what they did is they mapped it to some executable. Some function is executing, right, whenever that URL is received. Okay? And what does that function do? Well, that function connects to their database using JPA or using whatever framework they're using behind the scenes. It could be C#, it could be PHP, it could be whatever, right? We don't know. We don't care. Okay? But they're connected to some database, retrieving data, and as long as they return JSON, we don't really care what they're using behind the scenes, right? If they're using Java or C# or whatever, just like we didn't care when it was XML, right? When it was XML, same thing. I don't care what's behind, who's generating the XML, as long as it's XML, because I can parse it, I can do whatever I want with it. Yes? So same thing here. We are going to map URLs. We're going to map URLs to Java functions, right, or Java methods. Right, we're going to look at a URL, incoming URL. You're going to say, oh, okay, I'm going to parse a URL, and this URL maps to that function. Right, if it's a get, this URL, I'll run that function. Right, if it's a post and this is URL, I'll run that function. Right, and that function or method is going to respond with JSON back. Okay, so let's do that. All right, so to do that, we're going to need another library. We're going to need another library. The library that we're using right now is Jackson. Okay, and that's for manipulating JSON, right? For generating JSON. We're going to need another library, which I believe I've downloaded already. Jersey, this one over here, Jersey. Okay, you can download Jersey from here. You say download Jersey. Oops. Jersey. Okay, so here's Jersey. I'm using this version, 1.19. I haven't had too much luck with the new version 2.17. So I downloaded 1.19. Also works with the jar files that I installed for Jackson. Okay, so here it is. I downloaded it. And it's quite a few jar files. Actually, let me create a brand new. Project here. So this is my RESTful service. Okay, so I'm going to drop in here all these libraries from Jersey. I guess there's quite a few in here, right? That allows you to, also protect URLs. You need to just like we ask people to log in to go to a certain page, right? Well, those are URLs that we're protecting, right? We say, well, you can't view certain sections of the application or the website unless you log in, right? That makes sense. we're protecting certain URLs. Well, just like I'm protecting just URLs that map to a web page, I also need to protect URLs that map to a table, right? Or a record, right? We might say, well, I'm only going to let you read the data if you log in, right? If you give me some kind of API key, right? If you authenticate yourself, I know who you are. Yes, I'm only going to let you insert or update or delete only if I know who you are, right? And you have those. I'm not just going to let anybody just come in here and get into any URL and start, destroying my database, right? So all these jar files allow you to do all those things, right? Protect these URLs, and ask for authentication and whatnot. Okay, so I'm gonna bring that into my lib. There it is. We'll say okay. Jackson libs. I think that's it. Wait, no, that didn't work. Copy. Anything else? Let's see. API docs, no. Jersey license. I think that's it. Let me go in there. Let me see. No API doc contrib. Okay, I think that's it. Right. The only other thing that we need to configure is the web.xml, which I did not create. I forgot to create the web.xml. I'm just going to copy one that is already configured. I have one right here. Okay, I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to create, well, actually, I'm going to copy the file. Copy. I'm going to paste it here. There it is. And let's open it up and talk about it. There it is. Okay, so the way this is going to work is that this is going to declare. We're going to declare a servlet. Now, a servlet, what a servlet is just it's an executable. Right? It's a Java executable that we can map to a particular URL, which is more or less what we want to do, no? Right? The servlets are plain old Java classes, right? That when you that you can map to a URL and they execute. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to map it to a particular URL. There's the mapping over here. So here's the declaration of the servlet. Here's the declaration of the servlet. It's not our servlet, right? It's a very, very peculiar servlet written by the Jersey people. Okay, they created this servlet, right? And this servlet is, here's the declaration of the servlet. It starts here, the declaration of the servlet. So here's the name of the servlet. That's a Java class that implements it. Here's a couple of initialization parameters for the Jersey servlet. There's another parameterization saying that we want to use a JSON conversion. And then down below here is the mapping. There it is, the mapping. That Java servlet is mapped to this URL. If the server ever sees this pattern for the URL incoming, right? So if you hit the server with this URL pattern, the server is going to say, okay, I have a servlet mapped to that URL pattern. Meaning anything that starts with REST, for instance, anything that starts with REST, right? I'm going to send it over to the servlet. Let the servlet handle it. The servlet is going to execute. So what's that servlet going to do? That servlet is going to do something very, very special. Okay, that servlet is going to, this servlet, what's going to do is going to take the URL, everything that is after that URL, everything that is after that URL is going to parse it, is going to take a look at it, is going to analyze it. Okay, it's going to look at it and says, oh, it says /rest/ABC. Okay, So you say, okay, well, what is ABC mapped to? Okay, and it'll be one of our classes. Instead of being their class executing, it'll be one of our classes. Okay, and where are these classes? They are where we declare it over here. We say, where are the packages that you're going to have your classes declared? I'm going to put them under this package. All the classes under there, those classes I want the server to take a look at. Okay, take a look at all the classes under there and try to map whatever's under here to one of those classes. Make sense? Right? So let's create here, let's create a class under this package. Let's create a class under that package. So it's kind of like a double indirection, right? First, there's an indirection of the server, right, handing off the work to the Jersey servlet. And then the Jersey servlet, keeps parsing the URL and says, oh, well, let me see what the rest of the URL maps to. It maps either to that class or to that class or to any one of the other classes, depending on the pattern after the rest. Yes? So the rest maps to the Jersey servlet. Everything that follows maps to whatever our classes we want to map to. Make sense? Okay? And here is how you do the mapping. Right? The mapping is done as follows. Here we're going to create a new class. Okay? And we're going to call it hello, the hello class. And we're going to put it under that package that our servlet is looking at, right? The Jersey servlet, right? You say finish. Okay, so this is one of the classes that servlet is going to keep an eye on. Okay, and the way we map, everything that follows the rest, right? The way we map it to this particular hello is by putting a path over here and says this class maps to hello. Right? Meaning after the rest, yes, if what follows is hello, it's this class. That makes sense? I could have a separate class that maps to goodbye. Right? So if after the rest we see goodbye, it maps to that other class. Make sense? Right? So what we're doing here is we're implementing a web service, right? Meaning it's a, instead of being a server, right? It's it's less than a server. It's not an entire server, but it is a service. It's providing data for me. It's providing some data source that maps to some kind of URL. Okay. All right. So it maps to this hello. Over here, we need to import path. Okay. So all those packages that we imported, all those jar files that we imported into a lib, right? They are packages that implement a Java standard, right? Called the Web Service Standard, or JAX, JAX RS, or JAX WS, Web Service, Java API for XML services using web services. Okay, and they're all under the package javax.ws.rs. See that? Right? I'm going to select that and imports it. Very good. So now this hello maps to the class, but the class can't do anything on its own, right? There's no code in here, right? I need to map it to some actual functions or methods. And the methods are this is very, if you've done this in ASPX, right? This is very much like web methods, right? If you've done web methods, very, very similar. Okay. So here we're going to create a function, public string say hello. Okay, and this is going to say return hello world. Okay, so that's as far as concerned, it's just a plain old method. Okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna map this. We're gonna map this to additional URL patterns, right? So this will be /rest /hello is this class / whatever else. We were gonna map it to this particular method, right? So we're gonna say this maps to if a get comes in, if it's a get, right? If it's an HTTP get, and if the path is world, right? If you say /hello /world, I'm going to send back a string. I'm going to return a string, hello world. That makes sense? Yes? Okay. Get, I need to import that. Let's say import it. All right. Okay, so let's start the server. Let's see if this works. Or maybe the server is already running. Oh, the server is already running. Start it. Stop it. Let's run it. Actually, I don't know if it deployed this as well. Actually, let me try it out with just a plain old JSP, if making sure that this is actually running. Web content. So I put here a JSP file and say hello.jsp. This will just say on hello from JSP. Make sure that this is actually running. Next, okay, run, finish, restart, okay. Okay, so hello from JSP, okay, so that is running. So let me copy that. Let me copy that here. There it is, hello from JSP. So what I was saying earlier, right, if I do, so this that first slash, that slash is, it maps to the root of the application, right? That is the root of this particular application. Right? Anything that follows is within the context of this application, right? So that rest over here that is declared here, right? This rest, right, is relative to the application that I'm running under. Okay, so here would be /rest. That maps to what? The Jersey servlet. That's the Jersey servlet. Anything that follows that is anything of my mappings, my classes, right? So I have hello. Okay, that maps to what? It maps to my hello Java. So it maps to my class hello. Okay, and if I add world, that maps to this particular function or method. And that method returns hello world, hopefully, maybe. Yes, it does, right? It returns hello world, right? Did that make sense? Ever still with me? All right. And just to make sure, right, if I change this and I say save, and if I restart the server should restart on its own. There it is. The server redeployed, right? If I refresh this, there it is. So any changes I make to that Java class, right, it is running that function, that method. Everybody okay? All right. Okay. I can map it to world, or I can also map it to the root. I can map it get path and map it to the root. Meaning, if you just say /hello and you don't say anything else, right? It'll execute this function. Say, so let's map this. We'll call it hello world. We'll call this hello world and this hello. And this just returns just plain hello. And if the server reboots, it redeploys. Okay, so if I go back here and I remove the, so this is still working, right? Hello world, it's still returning world. Or if I just say hello, it'll just say hello, right? Make sense? Everybody okay? All right. Okay. Or, question? No? Or I can pass arguments. I can say public string say message. I can pass message. And so what I would like to be able to say is it returns, maybe hello concatenated with a message. Right, so I would like to be able to also pass parameters, right? Configure the way my methods behave, right, as an argument. So to do that, right, first I'm going to map it, right? If a get comes in, and I need to map it to a URL, the path. Now the path, right, could be maybe /message, right? If I say message, you're just going to say hello, and then I don't know, because you didn't give me any message, right? And so as a parameter, I could say I'm going to pass you as part of the path. I'm going to pass you the message, right? So notice the curly bracket says that this is not a literal string, right? This is something variable, right? So it's going to be /message /something. I don't know. And whatever comes in after the /message, I'm going to map it to a variable. Okay, and I'm going to pass it to you. Right? Not over here. I could have many parameters here, right? I would need to be able to map it to a particular parameter. Right? Right now, there's only one parameter. But imagine that this could be many, many parameters. I would need to be able to say, where you could have many strings. Yes, you can have many strings. I would need to be able to pass it and say, oh, the message maps to that particular string. Okay, so to do that, there is an additional configuration. We say at path parameter. Look at this. There's two path params. You see that? Careful. It's not the WebSocket one. Okay, it's the one here, javax.ws.rs. Okay, it's that one. Okay, and then you say, well, meaning this is saying, grab a parameter from the path, right? And now I need to tell it which parameter, because there could be many parameters, right? Over here, I could have another parameter, right? And then another parameter, right? I need to say, well, which one? There's a whole bunch of them, right? So to name them, you put it here. You say the message. So what we're saying here is that the parameter called the message from the path is going to map to this argument of the method. And that's how the method grabs the data that is being passed to it in the parameter as a path. Remember? Okay? Right? Okay, and so let's try that. So if we say REST message, the message, it didn't work. Wait, REST, oh no, wait, it's hello message, right? It's hello / so hello is my class, right? Message is my method, and then the parameters to the, okay, there it is. Okay, there it is, hello the message. So it worked. Everybody okay? Right? Right, I could do simple things such as path, add A and B, right? And this would be public integer add, and then pass the parameters, path parameter A as an integer a, and then another path parameter b to a variable b, and then return a plus b. Okay, notice that it will try to parse and convert, right, the path parameters. It will try to convert it into the right data type, right? It's smart enough to do the binding, right? It says, okay, well, whatever's coming in, I know it's a string. Obviously, it's a string, right? It'll try to parse into an integer and pass it to you into correct data type. Okay? So if we say here, we say hello, add 2 and 5, it doesn't work. Resolve. Wait, what happened? Serval exception, insert, syntax error, blah, blah, blah. Variable declare ID to complete Java. Wait, what? Internal. Hello 12. Hello 12. Oh, int b. Sorry. Let's try that again. Reboot. Refresh. There we go. Okay, let's try it again. Add 27 each source. Oh, okay. Message body writer for okay. Doesn't know how to write an integer. MIME type. Blah blah blah. Okay, so here's the first case we're considering. We're looking at how it would convert things into various data types. Right. It turns out that the primitive data types are not supported. Okay. Let me see. Perhaps just integer. Will that work? Integer. Restart, come on. No. Still things, okay. Yeah, the MIME type, right? So it doesn't know how to convert into the data types. So that's the first case where we're going to look at that. We would like to be able to tell it, how is it that you want me to convert certain data types? Okay, strings. I know how to convert into strings. How would you convert into anything other than a string? Okay, so for that, we can say produces. Produces is another package that allows us to convert things that we are going to return into various MIME types. Right? We can return an entire file, or we can return just a plain string. There's a whole bunch of different MIME types that we could return. We could return an Excel spreadsheet, a Word document, right? We would need to map it to the correct data type. Okay. So produces, and then here you can provide various media types. Media type. There we go. And there's various media types. There's JSON that you can return, SVG, XML. There's quite a few things that you can return. I believe you can just return plain text. Where's plain text? Plain text. Multi-part text. Text plain. There it is. Plain text. Okay, let's see if that works. This will reboot. It's really not wanting to work with me. Integer. Could I just return it as just plain string? We'll just return as a plain string. Okay, there's a 7. Actually, something that might be more interesting would be not return just plain old string. I want to be able to return anything, right? So to do that, let's start creating something here. For instance, I'd like to be able to say public return to me not just plain old strings, but return to me an entire object, right? So for instance, return to me an instance of hello message. So hello message will be an object that doesn't exist yet, right? Which will include several things in there. Okay. So for instance, I might say hello message, right? And that message, I might receive various things such as the message that I want, maybe some integer that I can receive. Maybe this is size or something. Okay, and then I can map it to an incoming get command to a path, maybe object. I'm asking for an object instance, right? And so return to me an object instance. So let's create an object instance here. And say hello message doesn't exist yet. So here's my object, new hello message that takes as argument the string message and the size from the parameters, and then it returns the object. Okay, something like that. So let's see, we're going to parse here the message, and we're going to parse here the size, and we're going to map it here as parameters, path parameters. So I'm going to map the message to that string. I'm going to map the count, the size, to that integer. I'm going to use them as arguments to instantiate an instance of a class that doesn't exist yet. Okay, let's create that class. Let's create it and say create class hello message. There it is. Okay, and there it is. My service is all right. Now it needs a constructor. Let's build that constructor. Create the constructor. String int. There it is. And the constructor is going to have something like, let's see, private string, the message, and private integer size, and a no argument constructor. It's always a good idea. And this one is going to create, say this message is going to be the message that you pass in, right? And this size is equal the size. I think that's it. Let's see. I think we're ready. Okay, it's not sending any more exceptions. All right, so let's try it. Let's run this. Okay, let's go here and map it. And say object. I'm going to pass the size must be an integer, and the message is right now just the message. And it failed. Okay, so it doesn't know how to convert an object into text, right? So how do you want me to convert it? Is this an image? Is it a Word document? Is it an Excel spreadsheet? What is this? Okay, so it's gonna give you an exception saying that it doesn't know how to convert that, doesn't have a writer on how to convert that message. So what we're gonna say is that I want you to convert it into JSON. I'm gonna say this produces, okay, it produces a media type of JSON. JSON string. It's going to return a JSON. Convert this into a JSON string. Okay. So let's see if this should reboot. There we go. Reboot it. And let's try this again. Is it not working? What is this? View source. And I don't want the source. object here. Hello object. Methods are found by no properties discovered, blah, 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 to create, to fail, oops, provide an unknown serializer. Really? No, it's this one. It's hello message, media type JSON, my object, and it's this one, hello message. Private. Oh, maybe it needs all the setters and getters because they are all private. Select all the setters and getters. Let's save that. Let's see if this reboots. Okay. Let's try this again. There it is. Okay. So what I was trying to do is that yes, I have all those values. I need to retrieve those values, right? And the only way that I can retrieve them is to call your get, right? But you don't have a get, right? Because your message and your size are both private. There's no way for me to read it, right? To create this JSON string, okay? I can create also instead of just a plain old object, I can create also an array of objects, right? For instance, I can say get, right? I can say get and path objects, plural, right? And then this is produces media type also out JSON, right? And this could return a list of hello messages. Say many hellos. Notice that the actual name of the method is irrelevant, right? It doesn't match anything, right, other than what you want it to be, right? So here I'm going to create several objects. Create several of these. So let's create one object. And this is hello 1 and 1, 2, 3. Let's create a whole bunch of these. Right? So 2, 3, 4, 5, and this would be 2, 3, 4, 5, and this could be right. And I can create a list of this, right? List of hello messages, new array lists of hello messages. I need to import both of these. And array list 2. And I can just say return, oh, I need to add them, right? Messages dot add hello message my obj1. I'm going to add them all. 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I can return messages, right? Okay, let's do that. And so now if I go here and say OBJs, right, it returns, there it is, it returns an array of objects. See that? Okay. Now, obviously what we're doing is we're returning hard-coded data. Right? We're hard-coding the data that's coming back. Really what we'd like to be able to do is return data that is in a database, right? That would be ideal, right? So let's play around with that. Okay, but you see how we can expose, right? We can expose any data, right? Map the URL to any method, and in that method we can just generate anything, any response we want. As long as that response can be mapped to a JSON equivalent, right? We can just send it back, and people could use that data, just like we use my API films, right? My films API. Somebody could use this URL to retrieve hello world. Okay. All right. So let's see what we have. The database. So in 5200, We have a couple of tables. What happened to our tables? Wait, what? Form? Didn't we have a movie table in here? Could have sworn we had a movie table in here. Okay, whatever. Let's add a movie table. How long we have? Okay, let's add a movie table. Create a table, and we'll call it movie table. I sworn we had that. Oh, okay. I think I have it in JPA. Is it? No, parent single table. What the heck? We have parent. No. Movie. Didn't we create a movie table for this last week? Weren't we working with movies? Okay, whatever. Okay, let's make this the default schema. Set this as a default schema, and let's create a movie, and this will be an ID. An integer is a primary key, auto increment. I like to store the, what is it? ID, IMDb? IMDb. Varchar, we'll have this as a title. We'll have this as a plot. What was the other one? Poster, right? Poster. For plot, actually, we want it to be much bigger than that, right? So we'll have it, I don't know, 1,000. Okay? And I'm going to apply, create, yada, yada, yada. No, that's not what we wanted. Can we convert this into CS5200? Apply. Error. Oh. Close. Oh man, I put it in the wrong table. Put it in the wrong database. Okay, fine, whatever. We'll use this one. Set as default schema. Okay. Right. So we want to connect to that database, and we'll use JPA. Right. Let's connect to it using JPA. Let's connect to using JPA. To do that, we are going to change our project to support JPA. Right. Let me stop the server. Stop the server because we're going to do quite a few things here. Let's see. We're going to go and change the properties and say that we want to look at the facets. We want to use JPA. There it is. We need to configure this. Oh, we need to drag in the MySQL, right? We need to drag in MySQL jar file. Let's do that. Let's see. Where is that? Should be somewhere here. MySQL. MySQL, there it is. So here's the jar file. I'm going to drag it in here. Where is it? My results under lib. There it is. Let's say copy. And I'm going to add it to my library, to my build path. There we go. And I'm going to turn on JPA. Let's say properties, turn on JPA. And we're going to configure this. We're going to say that we're going to use Eclipse link like we did last week. And we're going to install it. I never installed it for this workspace. So it's going to download Eclipse and install it in this workspace. Okay. And say OK. Connection. Let's add a connection. And let's connect to our MySQL database. Say next. We need to tell it where the drivers are. You say I'm going to edit this. I'm going to tell it that it's located physically where. Let's see. I believe it's under Eclipse REST. my RESTful services under web content, under webinf, under lib. It's that one. Yep, it's okay. It's okay. And the database is called PR and PR. Right, PR. What else? Let's test the connection. Connection is successful. And we're going to say next. Say finish. I'm going to say OK. All right, I think we're all done. Say OK. That's going to create a JPA entry here. There it is. With an empty persistence.xml. Well, almost empty. And we're going to copy it from an existing persistence.xml. Persistence.xml for MySQL. I think maybe this is a good one. Yeah, I think this is the one we used last time. Let's copy that. I'm just going to copy all the way up to here. I don't know that I need everything. Persistence unit. Yeah, okay. Paste it here. And these are the properties of the persistence unit. Here's a class. Here's a package where we have our data model, right? And our data model is where? Where is it? Actually, we don't have a data model, do we? Do we have a movie object here? We don't, right? So let's create a data model for the movie. So let's create a class real quick. Under hello, we'll do movie. And in here, we're going to mimic what's already in the database, the same schema. We're going to have, wait, where is it? What happened? Wait, didn't create it? What happened? Oh, this one was it. Movie social network. That was it. Movie. There it is. Okay, it was ID, title, poster. Okay. All right, and now I was doing, oh, okay, created it here. There it is. Okay, that is the one we created it. ID, IMDb. All right, let's use this one. Okay. So which one you want to use? I don't know. Let's use movie, this one, movie social network. So we're going to connect to, not test, what's it called? Movie social network. So movie social network. Okay. I do not want to create the tables. Info, what else? The package of that movie table, that's the movie table. It needs to have an ID, a title, a poster, and movie ID. Okay, let's create that. There it is. It's going to have what? Private, string, no, integer, ID. It's going to have private, string, title. We're going to have private, string, what else? Poster. We're going to have private, string, movie ID. Movie ID. Okay. And this is the package. So this is the package where our data model lives. And that's what we need to tell. There it is. There we go. Hello, and then movie, right? Movie. Oops. Movie. So that class is going to be an entity. We need to actually declare as an entity, right? And what else? And we need to declare this to be a primary key. Primary key. And finally, we need to create the setters and getters. Setters and getters. Select. It's okay. What else do we need to do? Let's see. We need to include this. We need to import this. Import. We need to import ID. Java X persistence there. Okay. What else? Movie. What is complaining about movie? Entity. Table. It cannot find movie. Table. Really? Is this the right thing? Let's see. Password. Blah blah blah. Movie social network. Is that the correct name? Movie social network. Movie social network. Looks right. Really? You can't find it? Movie cannot be resolved. You can't find that table. All right, that's fine. Let's create our DAO. Let's create our DAO. So we're going to say movie DAO. In our movie DAO, we're going to have, let's retrieve the movies. Do we have any movies in the database? I forget. Let's see. Select. Okay, we got a couple movies in there, right? So let's retrieve those movies. So let's see. We need, what do we need? We need the entity manager factory, right? Factory. It's going to be from persistence dot create entity manager from the unit movie. What is it? Movie social network. Network. Right? And then we're going to create our entity manager from the factory. Create entity manager. And finally, we're going to create all our CRUD methods, right? Let's import this. We're going to retrieve all the movies. So we're going to say public list of movies. Find all movies. Right, and you're going to say list. List cannot be resolved. What? Import java.util.star. Okay, there it is. Okay, we have movies. Find all movies. So what we're going to do is going to say em dot. We're going to need to do a select all, right? So we're going to need a query. Select all. So that query is under. I'm just going to import all of it. There we go. I'm going to import all of it. It's going to be em dot create query, and it's going to be select movie from a table called movie m. There it is. So that's all of them. And we're going to say select all dot get list, result list. What is it? Result list. There it is. Result list. And we're just going to return the list. Yes, I think that's it. Right? That's all we need. So going back to our hello. Oh, let's map it. Let's create now, instead of hello message, let's create a service, a web service that can return all our movies. Yes? So let's do that. Let's call it new class. We'll call it movie service. Okay? In our movie service, we're going to map it to movie. But this maps to the table movie. Right? That's what we want. If people ask for a movie, what are we going to tell them? We're going to retrieve all the movies from our DAO, from our database, right? So let's do that. I'm going to say path, right? If you just ask for /movie, yes, I'm going to return to you all the movies. So I'm mapping this to the root. If you just say movie, I'm just going to return to you all the movies, right? And if it's a get, I'm gonna return to you public a list of movies. Wait, movie, right? Yeah. So this is find. I'll call it the same thing I called it in the DAO. Find all movies. And what am I going to do? I'm going to use the DAO, right? The DAO to retrieve all this, right? So I gotta include all this. And list is Java util. You serious? Import java.util. Okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna return. We're gonna make a DAO. So movie DAO. New movie DAO. I'm gonna say we're gonna return whatever the find all movies returns. Yes. Okay. And what this produces is it produces media type dot JSON. Okay. Right. So let's restart the server and see if this blows up. But you see the idea, right? You map something to some URL, and the URL can then go off and do whatever you want, right? You can go retrieve whatever you want. So anyway, so let's hit here movie rest movie. Oops, this XML file does not appear to have any style. XML. Oh, it thinks that it wants XML. XML, really? Source. What is the source? What is the request? Thinks that it's XML. Failed. Responded with status 500 internal. Let's see what it complained about. Complained about. Oh, it did complain. Why did it say that it complained? Oh. Wait, did it hit? Wait, let me see. Let me see if it's actually running. Maybe because this is still an issue. Let me see. Table explicitly say that it's movie, the movie table. No. Name, movie. Movie cannot be resolved. It doesn't see the table. Why doesn't it see the table? There is a movie table there, right? It's not this one. It's that one. It's movie social network. Movie social network. Build, clean it. Let's rebuild everything. Movie class. My RESTful service. And the movie service is this one. It's mapped to movie. And let's see if hello. I just want to see if this returns without going to the database. Instead of going to the DAO, I just want to make sure that this is being mapped correctly. Final movies. Okay. Movie. Jersey lag, unresolved compilation problem, list movie. Did it compile? No. Oh, return, sorry. Return, oh, hello messages. No! I want to create instances of movies. Sorry. Let's create a whole bunch of instances of movies. See if that works. List of movies, new array list of movies. And let's create movie M1, new movie, and M1.set title M1. Let's create a couple of these. So 2, 3, 4, 3, and 4. Oops. Ah. 1, 2. Okay. Right. This is 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to add it. Movies. Oh. Stop it. Movies. Add M1. Oh, you know what? That might not be serializable. And then return movies. See if that works. Start this again. And let's try to hit it. Okay. All right. So it does return arrays of movies. So the class is okay. The class is good, right? It's just not connecting to the database. Why are you not connecting to the database? Let me comment that out. Okay, we know that that works. And why is that not working? Find all movies. Why is this not working? So, okay, so XML. So what does come back? Add body. So it's a big error probably. Span. Element network. That. Preview. Failed to load response data. Okay. But the server's not complaining. Why is the server not complaining? DAO. Let me try the DAO all by itself. How's that? Let me create the DAO. I'm going to put it. I'm going to try to run it from main. Public static void main string args. There we go. Okay, and this is a list of movie, right? Movies. Let's see if this works. And let me iterate over this for movie. Stop it. For movie in movies. What are you complaining about? Find all movies. What's it saying? Cannot make a static reference to a non-static. I'm not. What's it saying? Cannot make a static reference to the non-static method. I'm not. I'm saying DAO, find all movies. Public list, find all movies. Movie DAO, new movie DAO, list movies. Oh, okay. System.out.println movie.get title. Let's try and run this on its own. Oh, okay. No persistence provider for entity manager name social network. Okay, so the problem is here. Movie social network, persistence.xml. What's wrong with this? Oh. Okay, let's try it again with movie DAO. I hate computers. Let's try it again. Okay, I get the movies now. I get the movies. Let's try it again. Let's try the server again. Let's try to restart the server. Start. Okay, starts the server. Okay, now let's try this again. There we go. There we go. We have, right? We have now made available the data that is in our database. We've made it available. If you hit my server, my machine with my IP address, you would be seeing the information that is in my database, right? Okay. What about, if I say like 4, right? I would like for it to return this particular movie, right? As opposed to all the movies, right? So let's do that. We can, let's stop this for a second. I can go here and say, public movie, get just one movie, find movie by ID, and this would be int the ID, right? And now we can just say what? We can just say return entity manager dot find movie dot class by ID. That's it, right? Right? And then in our service, we can just say, we can map that. We can say, if you get a get and the path is, slash and then some ID, right? Return JSON, application JSON, by invoking this method that returns a movie, find movie by ID. Parse the ID from the path parameter, right? The field, the parameter is called ID, and map it into an integer into this method parameter, and then use DAO, the movie DAO. I guess we could instantiate it once instead of instantiating in every method. So return, oh, I mistyped this, produces. Return whatever the find movie by ID, passing the ID parameter, return that. Whatever the DAO returns, return that. Okay, let's restart the server. Okay, so now if we go back and just ask for number 4, hopefully it won't blow up. Hello? Uh-oh, it's in a loop. Oh no. What did I do? Return, oh. It's in a loop. Yeah, it's calling itself. DAO dot find by movie by ID, right? Yeah, sorry about that. Let's do that. Yeah, the server crashed. Must have crashed the server into a loop. It's still running. All right, it's booting up again. Okay, let's see. Let's refresh. There it is, right? So now it's returning that 1, right? Okay. So yeah, so we expose everything. What about creating a new movie? Right, creating a new movie. Well, to do that, we need to use we could get very lazy and just use get. Okay, but that would be a bad thing to do. Instead, what we're going to do is use post. Right, so we're going to be receiving a post, right? And instead of producing data, this is going to consume data. Right, I'm going to pass JSON, right, and it's going to insert into a database, right? So this is going to consume. My method is going to receive JSON. It's going to consume JSON. I'm going to pass it, right? So I'm just going to consume, same thing, media type, application JSON. So this is going to, it's not going to return anything. It's going to create movie, and it's going to take as an argument an object movie. Okay, and what we want to do. Let's include this. Import that. What we want to do is we want to do something like DAO dot create movie, and just pass the movie as an argument. We don't have that in our DAO. So let's create it. So we're going to say yes, create that, create the method. There it is. And we're going to say entity manager, get transaction, begin, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to say em.save the movie. And em.get transaction, get transaction dot commit. Okay. Wait, what's this? Em dot what? Em, the method save. Oh, I'm sorry, persist. Wrong language, sorry. That's MongoDB. Persist, right? Em dot persist and then the movie. Okay. So let's save this and let's save that. And this will restart, hopefully. Maybe. Is it running? Okay, the server is running, so this should restart. There we go, restart it. Now the problem here is that we can't do a post from the, right, up to this point, we've been doing everything at the, right, over here, at the URL over here. But there's no way for us to generate a post from over here. Instead, we're gonna need to programmatically do this from the browser using jQuery or Angular or any one of these. Which one you want to use? Angular or jQuery? jQuery? So let's use jQuery. I don't have jQuery, or maybe I do. I must have it. I have everything. jQuery. There it is. Copy. So we're going to put jQuery here. That's the only way for us to generate a post or put or delete, right? There's no way to generate it from the command from the URL. So I'm going to just create a simple here in hello.jsp. How about that? We're going to add jQuery. We're going to add it maybe here in a folder called JS. And in here, I'm going to paste jQuery. There it is, jQuery. Okay. And then I'm going to link it. I'm going to say bring jQuery in here, script, source. Oh, stop it. Stop the server. Source JS / jQuery. What's the name of the file? jQuery dash. I'm just going to rename it. I can't remember it. jQuery.js. jQuery.js. So now I have jQuery. I'm going to do a script. Make sure that jQuery is up and running. Alert. Hello from jQuery. If we get this, we know jQuery is running. So let's go back to our thing and say hello.jsp. Oops. Hello.jsp. No, not the source. Hello.jsp. I have two sources? Okay, let's try one more time. Third is the charm. Hello.jsp. Oh, I stopped the server. Start the server. Okay, reload. Uh-oh, it's not saying hello JSP. jQuery. Oh, it can't find jQuery. Why can't it find jQuery? Maybe it didn't deploy. Did I put it in the right place? RESTful service. It is, right? Maybe I need to refresh this. Refresh. And restart the server, maybe? No, it's not finding jQuery. I did paste it in here, right? Hello. Let's go under JS, jQuery.js. JS, jQuery.js, yeah. Why doesn't it see it? Let me redeploy. Okay. Crap, doesn't see jQuery. Why doesn't it see jQuery? jQuery on the JS, it does not see jQuery. Why not? Is it spelled correctly? jQuery.js. Huh? I know, but why doesn't it see it? That makes absolutely no sense. It's right there. Huh? Actually, it's actually telling me that it doesn't see it. No, it doesn't. It doesn't see it at all. Wow. Whatever. Let's link it. jQuery.com. jQuery link. Okay, hello from jQuery. Right, so jQuery is up and running. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna just the same JSON that we were getting. Right, where's our JSON? What was it? What did we call it? What was it? Movies. Movie/4, right? Oops. Movie. Oh, rest/movie. Okay, so we're gonna generate something like this. We're gonna generate from here. We're gonna create var movie. That's a JSON, right? So we're gonna generate a JSON from here. Let's create a brand new movie that is not in the database. Let's see, we have Terminator, Titanic, Aliens, Aliens 2. Oh no, Aliens, Avatar 2. I'm obsessed with Aliens. Let's create Aliens 2, it's not there. See that? Aliens 2 is not there. So let's create Aliens 2, poster XYZ, and the movie ID, 1, 2, 3. And the ID is whatever, because the create is going to create its own ID, so we don't care. So to create a post from jQuery, we can use Ajax and say, you know, what URL are we sending it over to? The URL is what? Is movie. What's the map? It's mapped to what? The service, the movie service. The create. We haven't mapped it, right? We need to map it. We want post, and we want the path. We want the path to be /, meaning if you do a post to movie with nothing else, is that you are inserting a new movie. Make sense? So the URL is what? The URL is going to be just plain old /movie. By default, jQuery Ajax uses get. If you don't say anything, by default it uses get. We don't want to get, we want to post. So we want to do, I think it's type post. If it is a post, we need to send data, right? And the data is going to be our movie. Okay? We want to post a movie. If it's successful, if everything's okay, it's going to call us back here with a response. Okay? Let's see. And I'm going to do a console. Say, yay, Yahoo. Okay? All right. The server, let's see if the server restarted. I don't know if the server restarted. I'm going to restart it just in case. So right away when the page loads, the first thing it's going to do is going to do a post. Okay. So where's our page? Our page is hello, right? Hello.jsp. Hello. Let's see. Did it do a Yahoo? Oh no. Didn't find movie. Oh, it needs a fully qualified name, so it needs the namespace as well. Okay, it needs the namespace as well. So I'm going to add here. There it is. My RESTful service. Let's see if the server restarts. Restart. Come on. Restart. Restart it. Okay, now I'm going to refresh this. Hello. Okay, it did a post, and it says that it didn't find it. My RESTful service. Wait, my RESTful service? Is that the name? My RESTful service. Oh, /rest/movie. /rest/movie. Restart. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, all right, so, all right, it did find it. Okay, it did find it, but let's see what we sent over. Let's see what we've sent over in the network. We did a post. We did a post, right? And what made it in the header, right, as we sent it over, let's see what was sent. So this is what was sent, right? So a form data. So it's encoding it as form data as opposed to as a JSON string, right? So we need to encode it first as a JSON string, right? For Jackson to parse it as a JSON string and then convert it into an object movie, right? So let's convert that and say the movie. I'm not going to pass the movie as an object. I'm going to stringify. I'm going to convert it into a string, right? To do that, I'm going to say JSON.stringify. Stringify. This is a very common method in all browsers support stringification. Stringification will convert from a JavaScript object, JSON, into a string, and JSON.parse will go backwards. It'll parse a string. This is if it's coming from the server, right? Data that's coming from the server. We want to convert it into a JavaScript object, into a JSON object. So let's try that again. Let's restart. Let's reload. And it's still, what? Unsupported media type. What am I sending? I am sending a string. Unsupported media type. Do we need to explicitly say it's JSON? Type pose, data type, JSON? Do I have to say that? Really? Not smart enough to know it's JSON? Let me make sure. jQuery post JSON. No, with Ajax. Posting JSON, blah, blah, blah. Post URL. Oh, yeah, data type JSON. The data as a string. Okay, so I guess I was just missing data type JSON. Let me restart. Data type JSON. Okay, and let's see, is fourth is the charm. Really? Page source. Page source. Yeah. Data type JSON. Type is post. Data stringify movie. Success. My URL. All right. I'll need to debug this. Why is this async false? Blah 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 blah. Stringify. Form data. Da, 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 what I want to use this piece of script to send data. Data, yeah, that's what I did. Your data should be stringified. Yeah, I did that. There's also more detail in jQuery posting JSON to web service. Markers, type, data, type posts, URL, blah, 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 data, JSON stringify, content type, content type. Content type. All right, if this doesn't work, I'm giving up. Actually, it's already late, so let's. I'm gonna give up anyway, even if it works. So it's been a while since I've done jQuery. Okay, no red flags. Yahoo. Okay, yeah. Let's see if it actually made it into a database. Let's refresh. There it is. Aliens 2 made it in there. Okay. So anyway, so we see how we can expose these methods, right, so that they can be accessed from outside, right? Here's the ID and everything, right? Poster XYZ. And I believe the homework, right, the homework that was due last week, but really it's due next week, asks you to use this, right, to write something using these get, these posts, these puts, right, to implement, right, to code something up, all right. Anyway, let's leave it here.